Welcome to Archie Marathon this week.
This week we're talking about stealing, plagiarism. There was a couple of comments from our last video where people said, "Oh, don't post drawings because people will steal them." And Kev said we should talk about that, and I thought, no, that's a stupid idea because there's no such thing as plagiarism in architecture.
Yeah, well, there's the idea of copyright, and copying is also a very important aspect of learning. And so we're going to talk about that this week, and Andrew is going to give us very good examples of... Andrew, where are you? I think we lost him. Hang on.
Sorry, I took a blow to the head. Plagiarism.
Yeah, so people thought that the idea of posting up drawings is giving your work away.
Drives me insane. Like, how innovative are people's plans and sections? Like, if there's only a certain number of ways, for example, to design a house. Like, there's nothing really that revolutionary about it. It's not as though architecture is technology. It's not as though we're designing these highly technological, innovative advances. All we're ever doing is a remix of well-founded ideas. So it actually drives me nuts, this idea that people think they're creating something that, yes, they have a copyright on, but it's so innovative that they need to hide it from public view.
Well, there's also coming from clients' perspective as well. They just feel like there's the idea of, okay, you've done the plan, or you've given away, I've seen your plan, I'm just going to steal that and do my own thing. So it's a bit like, you know, you're getting a chef to plan a huge party, they come up with a recipe, show you some pictures of the food that's going to be served, and you go, yeah, thanks, see ya.
That's okay. That's interesting. So I guess in our office we spend about 2% of the time drawing plans. Like, the rest of the labour in creating a building is well beyond just what the hell, how spaces are organised. So that's a really interesting analogy. So there's equipment bashing things. It's got to get loud. Let's go this way.
Whoop. Oh look, that's Vader House just there.
Yeah, one of my first houses.
Let's have a look.
I wonder how it's aged. It's looking all right. I think it was about 2006 I designed that thing. Anyway, I don't think this has been copied. Copying.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, so your analogy, that's really interesting. I think that's a really great way of putting it. So, thinking that somebody is stealing your work because they've copied your plans, yeah, that's like a chef saying, there's the menu, and you're going, ha-ha, now I don't need to pay for my meal because I'm going to go home and make it based on your menu. I think that's actually a pretty accurate analogy, because the value of architects is not the fact that they can draft some doors and windows and some black lines on white paper.
Yeah. Even if they write a cookbook, like a recipe book, you know, like Jamie Oliver does, you know, whatever. They do the cookbook. It's just a recipe. It's the same as doing documentation. You just say, this is what we think is a list of instructions of how to do it. But when you do it, the building process, you're involved as well, and there's always changes and things to fine tune it as you go, because that's a huge part of the fee as well, administration.
But yeah, copying, everything's a remix. I think copying is incredibly important. Whenever I start a project, I'm just looking at lots of precedents. You always teach this with your students as well, don't you? Before you start designing.
Yeah, I show them Everything's Remix,
Yep.
part 3, which is a great one because it talks about importance of copying.
That's a documentary, is it?
Yeah, have you seen that?
Yes.
Kirby
But I don't know whether they have.
Ferguson, yeah, I'll put a link there. So I remember being in a crit once, there was a student who clearly was, let's call it inspired, and that's fine. It's inspired by The Mountain by Biag Ingalls, which we've been to, and it clearly did not understand what it was just copying a shape. So I sort of say, well, okay, obviously you are referencing that. What did you learn from that building? Why do you think the building was the way it was? He said, oh, no, I don't want to copy. I just, you know, I'm just slightly inspired by it. So no, that's the point, is that you need to learn what was the reason behind why Bjarke Ingels did that. I mean, he's very good at explaining his ideas, but surely learn something and use it. I mean, that's what copying is about. So yeah, this pressure to be original, I think that's huge, especially in architecture school. You think it's always about trying to be, you know, it's free, you can do whatever you like, and so you want to be this kind of crazy original thing. And it's to a certain degree also in the profession as well, right?
And that's just not true. Like architecture it's not art, it's all about constraints. The beauty of architecture is actually the constraints. You know, was it Frank Lloyd Wright? Give me your constraints. And you know, those are the things that actually birth really great creative ideas. If I've got absolute freedom, and I know this trauma, if I've got a big site that's empty, I actually find it really, really difficult.
Yeah.
I like really tight, difficult sites because it forces me to actually be creative. Everybody's building around here. There's just construction noises all over the shop. I didn't get that job. This is a job that I put a fee in for, and somebody went for half the fee and got that job.
You probably stole your plans.
Stole my plans, yeah. Jesus Christ, we're just picking all the spots where there's construction going on. If you try to copy a prominent building, once you look critically at the brief, you know, what the client wants, when you look and interrogate the site to figure out the unique aspects of the site, the orientation, wind, then that thing you've tried to copy will become something quite unique anyway, because it needs to fit to its purpose and its site. If it just ends up being copy and paste, it will fail in how it's dealt with.
Well, there are
those
people,
factors.
having said that, though, there are people who would just literally take a plan and just dump it there, though. Would
Yeah.
they?
Well, I don't know. I think that happens out in the suburbs, doesn't it? You've got paddocks and they just replicate plans over and over.
And I think that's the sort of general perception of what architects kind of do, you know. People buy project, you know, house plans, books. There are magazines and books out there. You can buy house plans, right?
Yeah.
So surely that happens.
Yeah, but is the plan that you're worried about somebody stealing, is it so innovative that it has value beyond those other plans? Like, probably not.
In social media, publishing plans and sections, often they are not just typical construction ones. They are specially drawn to communicate the design intentions.
Yeah.
And they are helpful for us to understand, not just together with the pretty pictures, so we can see that there's a cohesive story being told by the design rather than just a bit of featureism on the outside or whatever. So, you know, the plans are clear in its intention and it relates to the external expression as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it describes the rigor, if it exists, in a building. I often think about science. I think it's Richard Feynman, a physicist. I think it was the Nobel Prize he won. And in his speech he said, if I've seen further than anybody else, it's because I've been standing on the shoulder of giants. You know, it's this idea that you add a slight layer of knowledge on top of the abundance of knowledge that you've inherited elsewhere. And I think that architecture probably needs to understand that we're not really creating anything new, that we're actually just remixing things, and anything truly innovative is adding a small amount to the body of shared knowledge that we have as a profession. And you need to understand that shared knowledge. Like when you get students and you ask them to look up, okay, we're doing a library, so go research libraries, and you will always get the one student that says, no, I don't want to be, I just want to create this. I don't want to be influenced by anything else. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, it doesn't come out of a vacuum. It cannot come out of a vacuum, and you're a child and you don't know what you're doing.
And you're influenced by your own experience as well.
Exactly, which is probably limited. And
Yes.
the more experience you get, the more you realise how important it is to reference, because you realise as you get older and more experienced how little you know.
And that's why we travel. That's
why
why
we
we
travel.
go and see buildings, not just to get the Instagram shot. It's there to try to understand the reason and the context, and of course to experience the great spaces that these projects offer.
It's about learning, so you can hopefully add that little layer of knowledge on top of the the knowledge that we already have.
And people always say that I've got amazing memory of recall for projects, and that's, to me, is just learning and remembering these are solutions, design solutions that other people have done, and then just being able to call it up and apply it. It's like, again, going back to the chef analogy, you know, just learning different dishes and knowing this is how, what happens when you do that.
The chef analogy is really useful, isn't it? It's like, no, I don't want to try other food because it'll influence my creativity. So I'm just going to cook with no reference.
Yeah. So, you know, in future we'll do a episode on food and architecture analogy, which I use quite a lot. Copyright laws, how do they work? Are they universal, or they just every country is different?
They're kind of universal. The architect retains the copyright unless agreed otherwise, but so typically you retain the copyright of the design and you grant a license to the client to use that copyrighted material on the site for its intended purpose. So therefore, if you do a development where your plan gets copied repeated times, that breaches that license unless you agree to be paid each time that. So you're actually protected under well, basically common law, I think it is. There's Moral Rights Act, which applies to all creative people. So even if you do put something online, you still own the copyright to that thing. You're not giving it away. And yes, somebody somewhere might go and photocopy it. So just make sure yours is executed better.
Hey, is this Kirsten Thompson?
Kirsten Thompson.
That's this.
Bit of Fitzroyalty.
Talking about uni though, there's another case, seeing someone literally, for their final presentation, they dropped in some documentation plans. It's clearly some documentation plans from somewhere, because it had door schedules, had like numbers and things on them. So it's clearly you didn't draw that, you clearly just dropped it, and it was all pixelated, so it was like, yeah, that's seriously just a copy.
Yeah.
And that's plagiarism. Don't do that, kids.
Yeah, when I was studying, there was a student that just redrew a Glen Murcutt house. I think it's the one with the roof, the little bit of the roof, and then that one.
Magni House.
That one. And just redrew it and put it on there. And what I really liked about the lecturers was, instead of just blatantly saying, you're an idiot and lazy, they just started really picking it apart. Going, okay, so you've got this house with these big eaves and all this glass on one side of the building, yet you've faced it southeast. So why have you faced it that way? And so they just started actually critiquing a wonderful Glen Murcutt building that was sited so badly and didn't fit the brief. I thought that was a genius bit of teaching, instead of doing what happens so often in architecture schools, which is to be a bully and to kick the hell out of the student, was to actually kind of go, your laziness shows how little you know.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to copy and paste, then surely...
Go back to showing the understanding of things.
Yeah, and one of them actually said that. You probably could legitimately you could actually legitimately use that to fulfill this studio, but you just got to turn the thing 270 degrees around and face the sun.
And that's interesting. If you look at Bjarke Ingels' talk, he actually talks about the survival of the fittest, but all these previous designs that they've come up with, they put them in a shelf. But then when the new project comes, they will just take the model back and just dump it on a new site, new something, and go, does this work?
Yeah.
And they kind of fight out and think, you know, does this design, which we've done previously for a completely different project, make sense in this new context?
I do actually like that idea. Like, you have so many projects that don't go ahead, or so many ideas that you actually jettison that you know are good ideas. But just not quite right for that project. I actually really like that. Oh, I get to steer now, do I? Look at how steady my filming is. I'm really good at this. We've been walking along for like 20 minutes now while Kevin's going, oh, there's another thing I want to say. Oh, I can't remember what it is. So what we're going to do is Kevin's just going to now just go move his mouth. And then later tonight, when he wakes up and realizes what he was meant to say, he's just going to voice over it. It'll be seamless.
Yeah, we see that's the problem with having nothing scripted when we record.
Making shit up as you go along. That's my life, man. It's my entire life.
Yeah.
Make it up as you go.
Copy that.
Copy that. Yeah, you can't copy it if all I'm doing is spitting out random shit everywhere.
You did too.
Thanks for watching, guys. So what do you reckon?
Do you think there is such a thing as stealing in architecture, as plagiarism, or do you think that we are building on the shoulder of giants, that we're actually improving each time we borrow an idea? And as always, don't forget to... What? Like, comment, subscribe!